She walked into the dealership in worn shoes and a simple dress, hoping for nothing more than a quiet test drive. But when the salesman mocked her, refused to help, and pushed her aside for real customers, he never imagined the man who would walk in next. The man who owned the entire dealership. Her husband. And who would change his life forever. Before we begin, this is Tales and Turns. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. Your support helps these stories reach more amazing people around the world. Now, let's begin. She entered the bright, polished showroom with a shy smile, her hands clasped nervously as she admired the glossy cars lined up like jewels under the lights. She wasn't dressed like the typical customer the sales staff liked to chase. Her clothes were plain, her hair tied in a simple braid, and she carried a small cloth bag instead of a designer purse. But despite her modest look, her eyes held a quiet spark of excitement. She had always loved cars, even if she'd barely been given a chance to drive them. Today, she had finally worked up the courage to ask for a test drive. The first salesman noticed her immediately, but not in the way she hoped. He raised an eyebrow, smirked at his colleague, and approached her with a voice coated in arrogance. "Mom, the used cars are outside," he said, without even asking what she wanted. She politely explained that she was interested in the new electric model, the one gleaming in the center of the showroom. But he laughed, a sharp sound that echoed across the polished floor. "This isn't a place to take selfies," he mocked. "Let's not waste each other's time." His words cut deeper than he realized. She tried again, asking gently if she could just see the interior. He waved her off, muttering something under his breath about time wasters and people who can't afford air fresheners, let alone a car like this. She felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment as a couple nearby glanced at her with pity. She had never liked drawing attention, and the salesman's cruelty made her wish she could disappear. Still, she managed to whisper, "Could I please speak to another representative?" The salesman scoffed and turned away, choosing instead to greet a well-dressed couple walking through the door. Feeling smaller by the second, she stepped aside, unsure if she should just leave. The excitement she'd walked in with had sunk into a heavy knot of disappointment. She wasn't angry, just hurt. But everything changed when the glass doors jingled again and a man walked in with confident, relaxed steps. He wore simple clothes too, nothing flashy, but his presence commanded the room. A few employees straightened up immediately, whispering urgently. She recognized him instantly, her husband. But the salesman clearly didn't. He strolled up to her with a warm smile. "You ready for that test drive, love?" he asked softly, placing an arm around her shoulders. The salesman's jaw dropped. Before he could speak, the dealership manager rushed over, pale and sweating. "Sir, we didn't know you were coming today," he stammered. The employees nearby scrambled to attention. The once arrogant salesman blinked rapidly, realizing the man he had ignored. No, insulted, was the owner of the entire dealership chain. The woman he had humiliated wasn't just a customer. She was the owner's wife. Her husband's expression hardened as he glanced from his trembling employee to his wife's downcast eyes. "Is this how you treat people?" he asked, his voice calm but heavy with disappointment. The salesman tried to apologize, but his words tangled into excuses. Her husband shook his head. "She came here with respect. You gave her none." His tone wasn't harsh, just painfully honest. The salesman's confidence crumbled. Every person in the showroom watched silently as the truth settled in like a weight. But instead of firing him on the spot, the owner made a decision that surprised everyone, including his wife. He told the salesman he would remain employed. Under one condition. For the next 6 months, he would undergo intensive customer service training and work directly with their charity program. serving people from all backgrounds with patience and humility. It wasn't punishment. It was transformation. If you can't treat every person with dignity, he said, you don't belong in sales. The salesman, shaken but grateful, agreed with tears in his eyes. Once the tension lifted, her husband gently guided her toward the car she had come to see. He opened the driver's door with a warm smile and said, "Take your time. This moment is yours." Her heart swelled with gratitude as she settled into the seat, fingertips brushing over the leather, eyes shining with joy she hadn't felt in years. When she finally started the engine, the hum of power beneath her palms felt like a small victory, not over the salesman, but over the doubt she had carried for so long. They drove together, the city lights reflecting off the windshield as she laughed through her nerves and rediscovered her confidence. He held her hand during stops, reminding her that she deserved every bit of happiness, no matter how simple or extravagant. And as she circled back to the dealership, she glanced at the salesman who now watched her with genuine respect, not because of who her husband was, but because he had learned a lesson he'd never forget. In the end, the story wasn't about revenge or humiliation. It was about dignity, compassion, and second chances. It was about a simple woman whose quiet strength changed not only her own life, but the life of a man who desperately needed humility. And as they drove home together, she finally realized that sometimes the simplest people carry the greatest power, because kindness, once revealed, can transform even the hardest hearts.